What's up, everybody out there? How you doing? I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Pepe's Point of View, and I am your favorite host. That's right, Pepe. Yes, today I am not talking about any of my favorite R&B divas music or any music, for that matter. Actually, this is one of the times when I tell you guys that from time to time I will dish out the dirt on who dropped kicked who in these entertainment streets. Well, I'm doing that right now. Okay, you guys, dishing out the dirt. But over here I always try to do things decent and in order. And of course, that's a little bit of wordplay since obviously you see the picture here is Bishop T.D. Jakes. And yes, it is hitting these social media streets, ladies and gentlemen, about another possible lawsuit that has come up regarding the bishop here. And well, it looks like it's almost in the family. Not that there's anything to chuckle about being S8 or anything like that. That's not what I meant when I said it that way. But there seems to be a lot of misconduct being thrown about when it comes to Bishop T.D. Jakes. And before I talk about these allegations, over here, I try to when things like this comes, when things such as this comes up, when I, try to dish out the dirt on who dropped kicked who, you understand what I'm saying? I if I don't feel like I have anything to say, I kind of, maybe watch someone else's channel, regarding the issue, see what's pretty much out there, and then I just kind of keep moving, right? I allow other people to do that, and I enjoy watching some other channels anyway. But today, when I saw this, I was actually at work, and when I saw this pop up, I was like, do I want to talk about this? And then I had to ask myself, well, if I talked about it, what angle would I go with this? And as I said before, if I don't have anything I feel like I'm going to contribute, then I don't say anything at all. And I think I have some things I want to say. And, I think you're going to probably, understand my perspective over here. So before you can talk about anyone, right, you got to talk about yourself, right? I feel that way. And so with me, I'm always going in, I'm going inward, Uh, I always it's just something I've always done, and it's something that I will always do. It always works for me, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to do what works for me, right? I can't be like everybody else, and I don't want to be like everyone else. So let me just start with myself. So here we go. I started going to a church at an early age, and for me, that early age would be um, in high school. To me, that's an early age for me, as far as attending. Now, growing up, my grandmother, she enjoyed books, and she always had books around. And one of the books she had around always, and I'm pretty sure like any household, was the Bible. And so the Bible was there, always around in my household. And, from time to time, I would open it up and I would read it. Okay. And for a person that's trying to read the Bible, let's say at 8, 9, 10, and 11 years of age, you definitely need somebody there to help you understand what's going on, right? If you're trying to read the Bible. But I would read my Bible, and I would say my Bible now because it pretty much was kind of like how I felt about it. And I would read my Bible, and when I came across something, I just go to my grandmother, my mom, I say, "Ooh, I read this in the Bible. I read that in the Bible." And, they'll make some few comments about, certain things, so on and so forth. And it's kind of kept moving. And I never thought about that now to now. I don't know why I never thought about that. But that's what they did. They'll make comments, kind of, lead me, in the right direction about what it was that I was reading. And so that was that experience for me growing up. And so there I am, I'm seeking God and I'm trying to find answers. So now I'm growing up, right? I said I started to read the Bible at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age, right? I didn't come from a religious or spiritual household, I don't think. Uh, I knew God. I knew people went to church. As a matter of fact, there was always like this church program sometimes that the local university students, when I was younger, we would have like the vacation Bible study and certain things like that, and they'll come into our community. And when we would get off the bus, we'll get off the bus from school, and maybe like about 30 minutes to an hour later, the vacation Bible study bus would be pulling up in our neighborhood, and we would all get on the bus, like pretty much the whole neighborhood. We'll get on the bus and we'll go, up to the church, and we'll pretty much spend our time up there, just doing the things you do at vacation Bible study. And then eventually after that, my mom, she decided, well, it's time for her children to get baptized. And so for a person who is young, going to get baptized, seeking answers, praying to God, then you get to a point where you're wanting more. I just wanted more out of that experience. And one day I look up. I am still in school. And one day I look up and I took a liking to gospel music. Okay. So taking this liking to gospel music because I love music, but it was around 1994, 1993 when I came across gospel music, like really gospel music. And the persons that I came across at the time was Twinkie Clark and the Clark sisters. And their music was really like, well, I'll put it to you like this. Because I love choirs, I loved them all my life. And when I would attend church, I attended church, and I'm like, oh gosh, I can't wait till the choir gets up and to sing, right? So I just loved a choir. And please don't start acting a fool with the choirs. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get into all of those vocal acrobats and all that stuff, and all kinds of stuff. Don't do that to me now. That just does something to me. But anyway, so what ends up happening is that I came across Twinkie Clark of the Clark Sisters, and they had an album that they had released in 1989 called Bringing It Back Home. All right. But I was in this bookstore one day, this Christian bookstore, and I came across that album as well as another album by the Clark Sisters called Miracle. So I was like, okay, let me see what this is about, the Clark Sisters. And, check them out. I loved the album so much so that I was like, okay, let me get more gospel music. And so I started listening to more gospel artists. And then I discovered a female group by the name of Witness. And Witness had a album out at the time called He Can Do the Impossible. Oh gosh, that's such a great album to me. So now I'm finding my way through all of this, and everything that I'm finding is kind of like speaking to me, like it's what I needed at that moment. So I remember being over to my grandmother's house, and one day my grandmother, I grew up watching TBN, right? I grew up watching that, and I can't remember the name of the program, but it's the lady. Oh, what's the lady's name? She had the pink hair. And I think they were saying something about we're blessed, we're blessed, we're blessed, we are blessed, something like that. What is the name? I can't remember the name, but I grew up watching TBN and watching the station with my grandmother. And then one day, my grandmother is watching TBN, and we come across this man, this pastor, preacher, and I didn't know his name at the time, of course, and it was T.D. Jakes. And there he was speaking, he was ministering, sweating, right? But he was speaking so boldly, profoundly. Like the things to me, what he was talking about really touched my soul. I do believe that. And so there I am. I'm listening to TD Jakes. I got my gospel music that I'm listening to, so on and so forth. And I'm like, I need more. I'm attending church, and I'm still saying, I need more. I need more. I need more. Searching for the answers and all of that stuff. One day, I'm in the bookstore, ladies and gentlemen, in the Christian bookstore, and I come across, and as I said, it has to be obviously timing, right? So I come across some books, and I see that T.D. Jakes has some books out. And the first book was called Can You Stand to Be Blessed? The title alone spoke volumes to me. Like I was looking for something, I was searching for something, and I found it. Because you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, I would say you have to understand, if you want to kind of understand me, I would say it this way. My understanding of my Christian experience, being introduced to Jesus, God, is one where it was always presented to you, ask and it shall be given, seek ye shall find, knock and the door shall be opened. And that's how it was presented to me, right? It was like God can do, you have to ask, you have to believe. It was all about faith, right? And so when I'm saying I'm seeking the answers, so on and so forth, like I am seeking the answers. I'm seeking God to answer all of these things that are just going on in my life, to do all of the things that I'm thinking about in my head, like what I want to do with my life, where I saw my life going, and I'm a very imaginative, I was a very imaginative child, you see. So I, I had all of these ideas and all of these things going on, and I was just believing and trusting God and learning how to navigate through that. Because do you live for God, like, and do what he says, and that's how you're going to be blessed? You got to live right, speak right, talk right, walk right. You can't do this, you can't do that. Do this. Oh, you need to do a little bit more of that, though. You see what I'm saying? Like it was always this constant instruction type of thing. And so with me, as I said, I was always seeking answers. So to see this book title, Can You Stand to Be Blessed? And I'm like, it spoke to me. I was like, I know this is what I need. So I got the book, and I promise you, I kid you not, when I started to read the first pages of the book, I started crying, and I'm a teenager. And I'm like, I started crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, Lord, thank you so much. Like you're answering. It again feels like the book is speaking to me. And when I say speaking to me, it's like the words on paper. What he's saying is like, this is exactly what it is. Like somebody has hit the nail on the head. Like I'm thank you. You understand all of this stuff, right? And so that's what happens. So I have my Bible. I'm attending church frequently. Like I'm at the point now I'm attending church if my parents are not going, if my siblings are not going, I'm going. It has gotten to that point, in my life. Like, okay, well, you guys don't go, I'm gonna go. and so I would do that, and then when it got to the point where I could drive, I would drive myself to church. You're still in high school, but you get your license. So my mom would trust me, well, I know he was going to go to church and come straight back. So my mom would trust me with the car to go to church. Things like that. And if not, then I find somebody who's going to church and I just ride to church with them. It was just pretty much one of those things. And so, but there I am. I'm seeking God. The questions, I have these questions. I'm trying to find the answers to them. And there I have it, right? Right there in front of me. And as I said, I want more books. And I believe in what he's saying and how he's saying it. And so throughout the years, what ends up happening is that when I come across TDJs, I come across TBN, and you can probably, kind of gather where this is about, where this is going. And where this is going is I am now experiencing a new kind of, I guess, ministry. Because now I have my music that I love, gospel music. I have the church, the actual building I'm attending. Of course, I have my Bible. I'm praying and I'm seeking God. And faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You got to trust God. You got to believe on God. You got to ask Him. You got to keep the faith. It's just those kinds of things. And I'm seeing people around me who are trusting and believing God. And I'm like, God did that. And then, of course, I'm going to church. People are laying hands on you. They're praying for you, this, that, and the other. They're speaking into your life. And all of these things are happening. And you're seeing the evidence of these things. And you want more, right? You got all these answers and you just have all these questions and you need these answers. I'm going somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. And so what ends up happening is, as I said, I find more people like TD Jakes. You find Marilyn Hickey. You find, oh gosh, what is it? Creflo Dollar. What's that other guy's name? I can't think of his name, but you find people like him, more like him, and they're all on, TBN. And then, you look up one day and you see these local churches, some maybe about an hour or two away from you, they have their ministry, on television, and people want to now have, it's no longer just a radio ministry, they have television ministries now, and you can see, these local churches, on, these local television networks and things like that, or shows. And so you go like, oh, okay. And so you just believe in everybody that you encounter. And that's what's happening with me. I'm believing everybody. I'm believing everybody's living well. I'm believing everybody's on the up and up. I believe everybody has it together but me. And these are the people that I'm striving to be like. Okay? And I'm not thinking anything. Like, I can tell you, I am literally watching, and I kid you not, like, I'm seeing this. I'm seeing people fall from grace. And when I say see people fall from grace, I'm talking about, the local, scandals, or things like that. You hear about them, and then you kind of experience them, and you're going like, what is going on? And you're seeing that people are taking sides. And for the most part, people are covering their pastors, because that's what I'm always hearing. Cover your pastor, pray for your pastor. Everybody's talking about covering your pastor. And everybody's saying you need to be in a church. You need to be in a local church because you need that covering, of God over you. So you need this covering, so on and so forth. Like, and it almost gets to the point where you're thinking that you need to go to man for answers. Right? I'm young. And so if I'm young and I am trying to keep the faith, and faith coming by hearing and hearing by the word of God. So that's what I am. being, I guess you could say, trained to do, and not think the wiser about it. Like, not even question it. Even if you is questioning it, it's more like, no, don't let the devil, distract you, this, whatever the case may be. But you're hearing about these things, you're seeing these things. And then if you're keeping the faith the way you say, the way you should, and if you're really praying to God, so on and so forth, I would like to believe if you're around God long enough, if you're praying to God long enough, if you're in His Word long enough, no, you're staying, and no matter your age, I like to think that whatever, if you're around Him like that, some of Him is going to rub off on you. I don't care how old you are. Do you see where I'm going? And so now sometimes you're looking at things like, something about that isn't quite right, but you know what? You just keep going with the flow. You don't question anything. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of like how it is. It's where I was. And so then it gets to the point where now you're seeing people who kind of, you have groups now. You have the group of people who attend church, right? And after these people attend church, they can't wait to get home so they can watch their favorite televangelist as well. It's kind of like, hey, I got to get home. You in service, but it's almost kind of like you're watching the Super Bowl. It's. I would say it. Wow, I never thought about it this way, but it is. It's kind of like you are at church. You're watching. I mean, you're listening to your pastor. You're enjoying the service, but it's almost like you can't wait for the service to end so you can go home and watch your favorite televangelist. Wow. Well, as I said, you never know where you're going over here with me. I never do. Um, but now it's like you find yourself putting your trust in people. You're putting your trust in people, intentionally or unintentionally, but you're doing it. It's almost like you have people saying, trust in the Lord, but this is how I'm going to tell you to trust in Him. And of course, you need people to teach you, right? And to show you the way. But you don't know if people are trying to keep you in line with God or if they're trying to keep you in line with them. And that's when you have people saying, well, now you got to pray and ask God for a discerning of spirit. Yeah. And so now you're praying for a discernment of spirit, and you're still seeking God. You're still trusting in God. You don't want to believe that people can actually be human, because it's like you go to church and you go to church, and for the most part, let's just say, what is it when they open up the doors? Well, maybe you're coming for be a candidate of baptism. Maybe you're coming to, rededicate your life to Christ. Maybe you're coming through what Christian experience, and that somebody asked you to attend church that day, and you attended church, and it just moved you. You felt the power of God. You felt God calling on you. You come up, and so now you don't have any background about God, Christianity, or anything like that. So now you have to be taught the ways of Christianity, and so you don't think anything about it. You don't really question anything. You just kind of go with the flow. And where I'm going with this is I guess what I'm saying is, if you think about it, it's easy to be, hmm, it's easy to be fooled by people, meaning it's easy to give someone over your trust. It becomes easy to trust people. See, I feel like, and this is where I'm going with this too. I'm going with tackling this issue, but not in the way you think it that I'm tackling this issue or speaking about this issue, because we are going to talk about some of the details. But it makes me wonder about the group of people, because there's a group of people out there, right? There's a group of people out there right now when it comes to this particular situation. They're going to say, hmm, oh my gosh, no, you you can't. Like, I can't believe. Oh my gosh. Like I put him on this pedestal. You know, he spoke with such power. He spoke with such authority. You know, I saw God move through him, and all of these kinds of things, right? You have that group of people who are so let down without thinking that all have, all will fall short. If you live long enough, you're going to err. You're just going to. I understand it's a thin line. I understand, but you're human. You're human, and what I mean by that is, think about it, people. If you're coming to God and you know your life is jacked up, you are coming to God. I'm saying you, any of you out there, and you know your life is jacked up. You know you've been around some jacked up people, broke, busted, and disgusted. What makes you think that other people can't be or haven't been? As I said before, we're talking about common sense here that we really don't think about because we go in so naively, because we just want to take for granted, because we're saying God wants you to trust him and trust him fully. But it's sometimes difficult to do that. We don't recognize we're doing it, but we're doing it when we hear the man of God say, God is saying, trust him. We're looking at a person say these things to us, and we have to understand that somehow or another, unconsciously, we're probably thinking that this person is, well, I'm not going to say God is not using the person. Where I'm going with this is that the person receiving it is not differentiating between the fact that what the man of God is saying and then God being totally separate. Yeah. So you put your trust in God. I mean, you're putting your trust in man. So it's easy for that to happen, ladies and gentlemen. So for that group of people who are just so like appalled, so like hurt by the possibility that this could be more than an alleged incidents, alleged incident or alleged incidents. You shouldn't be shocked. And what I'm saying, we shouldn't be shocked at all by anybody. You're human. We put people on pedestals, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't believe I'm saying this at the age that I'm saying it now, because I would 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you wouldn't be getting this from me. But because I have experienced people and people have intentionally let me down, intentionally let me down. And I had to get to a point to say, you know what? Hey, at the end of the day, you are a human being. And one thing I know for sure, I'm going to separate you from God, meaning God said he's not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. If he spoke it, he'll make it good. See, I have to realize you're the one who made that promise. You're the one who let me down, not God. I had faith in you. I may have asked God for a way, and I might have believed that it's God. It was God that used you to come into my life to assist or to do, and it fell through. I'm not getting mad at God because you can't keep your word. I'm not getting mad at God because you can't follow through. I'm not getting mad at God because you fall short. It's you. See, I think, ladies and gentlemen, what happens, this is what I'm discovering now. I'm talking about me. You know, like I said, this is Pepe's point of view. Like I said, I don't bring anything that I feel like if I don't have anything to say about it, I just keep my mouth closed. I might listen to it, but as far as just coming out with something, I just keep my mouth closed, you know. And I think what ends up happening, ladies and gentlemen, is that, and think about it, I don't think people ever thought about this. You are let down by TD Jakes, you're let down by other people, like let's just say televangelists or just people in general. And I'm going to tell you why you're let down by them. Yes, you put your trust in them. But if you put your trust in them, guess what you did? You actually put forth an effort into that relationship. See, that's the reason why it's so hard and so difficult for people to, what's the word I'm looking for? Let go. Think about it. It's no different than, let's say, for instance, this lady know this man isn't any good. She knows it. Like, and what I mean by that, he is just not, he's not going to commit. But you love him so much. And what you decide to do is you decide to have a continue the relationship with him. And you decided that, you know what, you're gonna, oh well, I got to marry him, and you know I love him, I want to marry him. I'm trusting God that God is gonna make him a good man out of him, and so on and so forth. You just believing and you trusting in God. Think about it. Guess what's happening? You're putting your trust in this man. And because you're putting your trust in this man, you're putting all your efforts into him. You are becoming invested in him. You are. So it's hard to let go. Even when you feel like you need to let go of him now, even after you married him. And you're like, oh my gosh, I messed up. Yeah, married the wrong one. Now you trying to break loose, if you will. But it's hard for you to break loose. I know most people want to talk about soul ties and bondages and proclivities and all of that stuff. I understand all of those things. But what I'm going with this is, it's just you put in your effort. That's the reason why. You put more into the relationship. That's why you're hurt. You're hurt because you gave the church your money. See, you're going to think too hard. You're thinking too hard over here with me. If you're thinking I'm saying not to give the church your money, not to pay your tithes. See, you done missed the whole point. You gave something. So if you are a tither, you invested. If you attended church regularly, you invested. If you went up to that altar and you asked him to pray, lay hands on you, so on and so forth, you invested in this. You put all your efforts into it. So that's the reason why your world is crumbling when it relates to any incidences with that comes to, let's say like TD Jakes or other individuals. That's the reason why your world feel like it's falling apart. If you didn't do anything, think about it. If you didn't do anything, this does not phase you. You can shrug your shoulders and keep going and be like, oh, well, man, I hope everything works all right for you. Why? Because that person didn't invest in anything. So your world is crumbling, is shattered. You know what I'm saying? You're so devastated. You're ready to turn your back on God. You're ready to turn your back on, you know, everything. You're ready just to leave the church. I'm talking about like you're ready to leave Christianity or whatever it is that you did. Like you just ready because, but did you put your trust and faith in God? See, if you can leave God, now I'm talking to the people now who wants to leave God, all right? If you want to leave God because of this, I got some news for you. This is going to hurt your feelings the way I'm saying this right now, but like I said, it's Pepe's point of view. If you are someone who's about to leave God right now because you just feel like the man of God has devastated you so much and how he's just fallen from grace from so hard or whatever the case may be that there's no turning back, I got news for you. If you're ready to, turn your back on God, this is what I'm going to say to you. It's going to hurt your feelings probably, but I understand that you never thought about it this way. And that is, you didn't build a relationship with God. See, it's easy for you to walk away from God because the whole entire time, what you was doing was you was putting your efforts into a ministry. Yeah, maybe you got on a board somewhere and you got a title on that board. I'm talking about any church now. And the board paid you, and you was maybe paid a salary. Maybe you had an office in that particular ministry. That ministry paid you and paid you well, and you got all kinds of cars and this, that, and the other, whatever, because it was a nice, comfortable salary. But now you're ready to turn your back on God. You can do that. See, you can turn your back on God because you didn't invest in anything in God. See, that's why it's so easy. See, those of us who really are building relationships with God, we look at this like, okay, yeah, yeah, man falls short. We pray. We pray. We still trust and believe God. No matter what, whether there's a building to attend or not, it's all right because you know what? We pray all the time. We seeking God all the time. See, there are times when God is doing things for us that, you know what, I ain't called a pastor for. I ain't called him up and, tell him to call my pastor. I'm not downing anybody who does that. I'm just saying there are some people out there who attend, they'll be like, I didn't call the pastor to ask him about this healing that I needed. I mean, I probably started out like that. But I needed a breakthrough right then and there. I didn't get on the phone asking the pastor, what should I do? And this is not a diss to the pastor or the bishops or anybody or the prophets. No, it's not. This is about the fact, after all this time, have you developed a relationship with God? And if God has done one thing for you and you know for sure he did that thing, why are you walking away from him? Because somebody has fallen short. That's all I want to know. I'm just saying. I think it's safe to say that people who, not who, I think it's safe to say that people want to be associated, I say it that way, with prosperous, powerful people. I believe that. I believe that there are people out there who they really want to be uh, with prosperous people. Do you see what I'm saying? And there are some people out there who know they're prosperous and powerful and they use it to their advantage. It's true for both sides. So I'm not here to judge. So a person or there's a person or there are people in this world who have an invested interest in whether or not a person keeps that power or not. So when it comes to situations like this one here, the alleged incident, and let's say it happened and it happened while the person was a teenager, right? Let's say it happened and the person was a teen. I hope that the individual told someone about it. See, for me, and I might do a part two. I'm gonna have to do a part two of this. I see, because I don't want this video to be too long. I don't want it to be longer than an hour for sure. See, this is when things kind of get gray to me. I'm talking about on the surface. This is when things get gray to me because I'm saying, hmm, is it true? Is it possible that any bishop, pastor, prophet is a part of the LGBTQ plus community? Is it possible? And is it possible that that person is also DL? Is it possible? It's very possible. So, what do you do in situations like those? Where everybody has his or her own opinion, don't we? Because see, here we are. Which one are we trying to dissect here? Are we trying to dissect the part about the possibility that someone who's a head of a ministry, are we dissecting the part about being a part of the LGBTQ plus community? Or are we dissecting the part where the alleged SA, the misconduct, occurred? Are we dragging someone's name through the mud because they're part of the LGBTQ plus community? Or are we dragging that person's name through the mud because of a possible misconduct? Or are we doing both? Which one are we doing? See, we can dissect this more and more and more if we wanted to. We really could. Because, first of all, if it's true, we could say, well, listen, if we lived in a world where people was accepted for who they are when it comes to being a part of the LGBTQ plus community, then we wouldn't have this issue, would we? Will we have an issue where a man of God is a part of the LGBTQ plus community and cannot be, you know, a head of a ministry? Because if that's the case, then we're thinking about the countless number of people who are head of ministries who have had allegations of, and it has been proven in a court of law that there was some misconduct happening, and those people continue to be where they are, the head of the ministry. So, what road are we going down with this one? We have to think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Or at least I have to stop and think about that sometimes. I have to stop and ask, wait a minute. So which one is the problem? Where are we going? Which I have to tell people around me all the time, like, okay, now where I just want to make sure I'm kind of slow. Where are we going? Like, which one is the problem? Which one you have a problem with? I'm talking about anything. Like, which one you have a problem with? Because see, I might think you are saying you have a problem with this, and I could be totally wrong. That's why I tell people all the time, you just listen, you got to be straight up with me. I, I don't know what angle you taking with this. Let's say it's both. Let's say it's both. Let's just say it's both. Would we have this issue? Let's just say both. Let's say it's both. Would we have this issue if we were practicing love thy neighbor as thyself? You know, love God with all your heart, mind, body, soul, and then love your neighbor, so on and so forth. If we did those, and if you do those two things, then you have fulfilled the commandments and so on and so forth. If we did that, would we be here? Well, what do you mean? Well, I got news for you. Well, if a head of a ministry was a part of the LGBTQ plus community, we wouldn't be judging. We wouldn't be judging at all. We'll be loving. We'll be supportive. We'll be giving. We'll be nurturing. Why? Because we don't want people to harm us. And we don't want people to discriminate against us. And we don't want people to be racist and have and whatever you want to call it, prejudice, discrimination, stereotypes, preferences, bigotry, phobias, all of that stuff would not take place in a person's life because you're loving your neighbor as yourself. You're loving God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. So you wouldn't be doing these kinds of things towards another person who's a part of the LGBTQ plus community. But then also on the other hand, if we were doing love thy neighbor as thyself and loving the Lord with all our heart, mind, body, and soul, and so on and so forth, we wouldn't be accused of misconduct either. Because we would not want to do that to people because we wouldn't want it done to ourselves. And see, right then and there, the slate would be clean. Like none of this would be happening at all. And we're not even practicing that part. And that part seems to be the simple thing to do, the easy thing to do. But yet we want to continue on our hate trail. That's what we want to do. We want to get on our moral high horse, is what we want to do. We want to talk about the planks and the pins and the needles and all of that other stuff in people's eyes. That's what we want to do. We want to point the finger. We want to point fingers, and I'm not talking about this situation. I'm just talking about in general. We just want to point the finger. Oh, I'm so glad I'm not like them. As when I was on my way home, and like I said, oh wow, this is obviously going to be a part two. But when I was on my way home and I was thinking about this, and I was like, what is my approach? Oh, well, and I was, kind of dealing with other things too on my mind. And I said to myself, and I don't know why I use this analogy. I'm trying to think, does it work? Do I have a clear thought on this analogy before I start to say it? I think I know where I was going with this. No, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna wait to part two. Let me kind of hash that out. I might not want to say that because I might I might be still off on it. But we're talking about love now. So we done clean this thing up, right? Well, what do you mean we done clean this thing up? Well, we done cleaned it up because what I noticed for me getting back to TD Jakes now, because I was not talking about TD Jakes at all after I started talking about, other ministries. I just want to put that out there. But now getting back to TD Jakes, what I was finding once I was watching TBN and all these televangelists and so on and so forth, uh, what I discovered was this is business. This is marketing. This is image. This is a cookie cutter trying to. This is selling things. Like after a while, after I got older, because now I'm no longer in high school, but I'm still watching TBN. I'm still listening to my gospel music, so on and so forth. You know, and I think I could be wrong, but I think Juanita Bynum said this once before in one of her sermons. She said she got caught up in that as well. She got caught up in the fact, oh, I got to make sure that this is the right image, this is the right this, it's the right this and the that, and all of that stuff. Like, you get caught up in all of that. And so part of that is what is we're having right now too. And people will set you free. They will help you get free. Yes, they will. People can help you get out of bondage. And they can what? Enslave you to them. I repeat that. A person can help you get free. A person can set you free. A person can help you get delivered. And a person can also enslave you to them. And you have no idea it happened. And I know we need people's covering. I know we need people covering. And I'm not saying not to pray for the men or not to pray for anybody. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just putting in my point of view. But I will say this to people who have lost hope. You shouldn't lose hope. And the reason why you shouldn't lose hope, then isn't it a scripture in the Bible that says that God will never leave you nor forsake you? Did he also say, you know what, your mother and your father may have left you or forsaken you, but God said he will never leave you nor forsake you. He'll never leave you nor forsake you. And there you are. And what are you doing? But you're forsaking God by putting your trust in man. A man who can fall short at any time, any man. I've learned something when it comes to people. I've learned the hard way. Listen, when people tell me things that they're going to do, I go, okay, this is me. Only time will tell. I no longer hold on to people's words. I can't. And I tell a person quick, you ain't God. What? You're not God. I'm not sitting back waiting on you to do anything. But yeah, but I told you I would. I can't trust you on that. I got to make sure I'm good. You can come up to me and whatever you promise, you can do. Let's just say you said you're gonna show up at 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm gonna be there by 9 a.m. You come calling me at 8:59 a.m. Man, I'm sorry, dude. I got sleep. I fell asleep, or I overslept, or something came up, man. You wouldn't believe what just happened. And I'm not gonna say whether or not if it did or didn't. But I know one thing about me. What I've learned that this, and I learned the lesson the hard way because I experienced it. It's called character. See, me, I would have said, I have somewhere, I told somebody I was going to be there at 9 o'clock, and I'm going to be there. And if something comes up and says at 8 o'clock, I'm sorry, I gave someone my word that I will be there or I would do that, and I will make sure I keep my word. I don't feel good about myself if I don't keep my word. And I've gotten to the point now that I no longer just so easily tell people I'm going to do X, Y, and Z because see me, I know I promise to keep my word. But I know that there are people out there who don't promise, who can promise to keep their word. And you know what? And they have already had intentions of not keeping their word. Or number two, when the rubber meets the road and they have to keep their promise, if they can find a way out of keeping their promise or an easier route, they will take it. So that's why I don't trust man. So I know people out there are probably saying, well, what do we do? Didn't you just hear in the beginning of my commentary how I said I felt like this particular man spoke to my soul? I felt like when I read that first book that he put out, and I think that was the first book, Can You Stand to Be Blessed? I think it was the first book. I'm not quite sure. But when Can You Stand to Be Blessed? Loose that man and let him go. And why? Because you are anointed. These were the books. And when I finished reading these books, ladies and gentlemen, guess what I did? I gave them to people to read. I said, hey, have you read this book? You need to read this book. I gave them to people to read. So I know the books help. It's no different if you were intentional in your help, if you were intentional in what it was that you were doing, then you're good, right? It's supposed to work. It's no different than me with counseling. I am a counselor. So if I am using a particular therapy model and it has evidence, it's an evidence-based practice, it's supposed to work. So these books here are books that's based off what? Scriptures in the Bible and different kinds of experiences, and there are more research. And it's additional research about topics. Maybe it's you expounding on probably one of your sermons, so on and so forth. The word is the word. Because see, and some people would say back in the day, "Oh, you got to separate the message from the messenger." They used to say that back in the day. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I can feel comfortable in the fact, hey, I know this spoke to me. But there was also a time where I'm like, oh, I don't know, for whatever reason, I got what I needed out of that at the time, and I just moved on. I'm not invested in it. I'm not emotionally attached like some people are to certain things. Because some churches, all it is a popularity contest with different sets in the middle. I mean, in the ministry. And that's where I was going when I was talking about power, right? And people enslaving themselves, enslaving you to them because you can't do anything without them. Don't get it wrong. This here, what we're talking about, this particular situation, ladies and gentlemen, is a well-oiled machine. and it has a lot of moving parts. And people need to make sure their moving parts continue to be oiled, if you know what I mean. And the Bible has said what it said, your sins will track you down. And that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. Have faith and trust in God. Believe in God. Because see, what we're going to miss here is we're going to miss the message of God. And I don't want us to miss the message of God. What I want you to know is that people are people. I have learned to let people be because sometimes you have to let people go through whatever it is they're going through in order for them to get what God is trying to give them. And I'm not talking about anything bad. I'm talking about just things in general. I'm not wishing anything bad on anyone because, as I said, this is a well-oiled machine. I do know that people will do things out of spite. They can be petty towards each other. We can get caught up in the hoopla about all of the possible allegations that could possibly continue to come forward, and we'll sensationalize this thing to the point where the true victims, if they are true, are the ones who are not even getting the justice. Is this abuse of power? Is it? Is this misconduct, and is this an abuse of power? Is this a possibility that you have someone who is a part of the LGBTQ plus community and is not out, if you will? They're DL and possibly tried to have some things on the side that just did not work out the way they should have. Is that possible? Is it possible? Oops, man, my bad. I made a mistake, so on and so forth. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving. Or is it this thing continues to happen because you know what? No one has been held accountable because it's a well-oiled machine and it's well-oiled to the point where you know what? People have to protect their investment. Do you see where I'm going with this? See, people are all see the ones who are the ones who are emotionally tied, and emotionally invested, physically invested, financially invested, mentally invested, spiritually invested. Do you see what I'm saying? It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Well, you know, if you have made it this far in my commentary, I think it's only appropriate for me to say, hey, hang out with me for a while. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share button. Leave a comment if you would like. I definitely welcome you doing all of those things. I appreciate you guys so much out there. Thank you so much for taking the time out to keep me company over here at Pepe's Point of View. And my motto over here is very simple. Put your behind where your heart desires to be. And whenever I leave my mother's presence, she always says to me, she says, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. I look forward to seeing your next video. And until then, you should know what to do by now. Take care of you. All right.